Landing a brand new job can be incredibly exciting, especially if you've been looking for a long time. The process of finding that job, however, can be stressful enough to wear almost anybody down. Today, I'm joined by Leah Thompson, who spent much of the, I would say, early part of this year of 2025 being incredibly open about her job search on social media. She was recently hired as a front end engineer on the, I think, the marketing team at Laravel. Is that right,
hmm
Leah?
Yeah,
Well,
on the
congratulations
DevRel team. Thank
on the
you.
DevRel. Oh, so it is a DevRel team. Okay, well, congratulations. That's very exciting.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, it was a roller coaster. The whole job hunt was a roller coaster.
Well, and that's why you're here today, right? I think
Mhm.
you know better than maybe not most, but you certainly know really well what happens when you're looking for a job and how much it can be maybe a bit of a grind. Can you tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about how you managed your time and basically how you approached trying to find a job?
Yeah, so to begin with, I mainly focused on like finding jobs and applying to jobs before I
Yep.
had interviews and stuff like that. And then once I had the interviews, I started focusing on like behavioral prep and stuff, especially like the first
Mm,
interview. I started focusing on behavioral prep, looking into the company specifically. Like I know some people I think look into the companies before they apply. In my case, like unless like there's like huge red flags, I like would just apply and then once I had the interview, start looking into the company more to kind of have like crafted answers of like why do you want to work here and like putting in the company values and stuff like that. So it
sure,
like shows
sure.
you did your work. So that's kind of where my time was spent. It wasn't really spent on me building projects, or at least not until I was like right near technical interviews. And then I would
Mm,
start to kind of ramp up building projects and stuff like that. Especially like one of my technical interviews I thought was going to be in Python. And I mainly do JavaScript, also some PHP and Laravel. So I haven't used Python in like 2 years. So I started building projects on the weekends in Python. But I did that like after I already got to the second stage of the interview. So where
right.
the technical would be next. So I guess most of my time was just spent applying to jobs. And then once I had
Yeah.
interviews, it was like interview prep. It was behavioral prep, looking into the companies, and then getting ready for technical interviews and stuff like that. That's really where I feel like most of my time was spent.
Yeah. That's interesting that you waited until you had the sort of actual interview to do prep
Mhm.
on the company. I'm somebody who I probably over prepare for things. Maybe that's a problem. I I think when I've applied for jobs in the past, I've sometimes like obsessed a little too much, like trying to get that perfect cover letter or perfect resume
Mhm.
tweak to like they said this on their values page on their website. Let me pull that in. But it sounds like you didn't do that, and that might have worked out to your benefit because otherwise you really can only apply to so many jobs, right?
Yeah, no, I did not do that because I know people say to customize your resume and stuff like that. I didn't customize my resume at all. I
Mm,
only customized my cover letter in the sense that I have like a couple places, like two or three places, I like named the company I'm applying for and the
sure,
role,
sure.
and I changed it there. And then I
Okay.
have a sentence where I put in like their mission. So like
Yeah.
I believe I can like blah, I can contribute
Right.
to your mission of blah blah blah. That's it. I had like a boilerplate. I threw stuff in. That's it. And then I kind of was just like, I mean, of course, in my head, like I obsessed over things, but I was trying to
Yeah.
just like, I'm gonna apply and then just like not worry too much about it until I have the interviews, and then I will know their mission in and out and like have my like crafted answers. I will say for like the technical stuff or in the behavioral questions, I like wrote answers that were like a paragraph long, and
Mm.
I spent more time practicing on that stuff. So I would
Oh,
like
that's interesting.
practice it. I would record myself talking about it to make
Mm.
sure like I liked how it sounded and it didn't just sound like scripted because I am a chatterbox. So I was worried if they asked me and I wasn't prepared, I would just like keep going, keep droning on
Yeah.
about something.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So having that like scripted answer that I knew what I wanted to say and I knew it should be like a decent size, but it like hits most of the points they want. That's kind of what I followed. But yeah, I didn't craft my resume or cover letter really. I just kind of applied, which I know a lot of people say not to do, but I ended up interviewing with like 9 different companies, and I want to say 7 of them were from just applying.
Okay. That's yeah. It's the other. I want to talk about that in a second, but real quick,
Mhm.
you talked about prepping your answers, and you
Mhm.
wanted to do it because you were a chatterbox. I bet it also applies if you are afraid of like freezing up, or if you think you're going to
Mhm.
be nervous because you've got like something to fall back on.
Mhm.
Like okay, maybe I'm stumbling through this answer, but I remember saying this before. Here are my notes, or I practice this like I know what to do. Like if you feel you're not comfortable speaking, that's also a good thing to do.
Yeah, no, it would help a lot for that. And also, because sometimes they ask you different questions or they'll like word it differently. If you at least have practice and have scripted answers, you already know of like stories that you can fall back on. So if it's like, tell me about a time you blah, blah, blah. You
Yeah.
already have those in your head. So even if they like hit you with a different question, you kind of have like these examples you can go to and like draw from. So I feel like
Yeah.
that helps instead of you just like freezing up or having no clue, which I think a lot of my interviews were behavioral and situational and stuff too. So that like helped that I
Right.
already had those answers written down, especially because like maybe when you're going over them, you realize you don't really have a situation that works for that question at your current job. So then you're
Yeah.
having to think back from previous jobs and how it can relate. So it helps to craft them beforehand, I feel like.
And I bet as you went through the interview process, you kept adding to like your library of like
Mhm.
questions, so to speak. Like you know, okay, I'm seeing more of this kind of question. Let me prep that because that caught me off guard.
Yeah, I tried to, and and then at some point I just got so overwhelmed with the interviews that I was just like, I don't even remember what they asked me. It felt like I would get in interviews and like black out, and then like come to afterwards. Because I had like
I've totally, yeah.
I had some weeks I had like 7 interviews.
That's a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, did as you approach like as you're going through this day to day, like looking for a
Mhm.
job, did you sort of have like, all right, I want to apply to like X number of jobs today, or was it just sort of like I'm going to look when I find ones that I think fit, I'm just going to apply, and that's all it is. It's just apply when I see something good,
Mhm.
and was it just as easy as that, or as simple as that, I should say?
Sometimes it was like a lot of times it was like, okay, I'm going to apply to at least 5 jobs today. Like
Okay.
starting, so it's like I'm gonna apply to at least 3 to 5 jobs today. I'm gonna do that. And then I would apply, and then next day it's like, okay, I'm applying to 5 jobs. But at least when I didn't have interviews or it was like slow, I would like kind of have like a minimum a day I would try to
Mhm.
apply to. But then once the interview started ramping up. Like in January, January 1st was my first interview. And then by the end of January, I was interviewing with 4 different companies, or maybe
Okay.
five, maybe four, at a time. So that's like a lot to juggle. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna lay off applying right now. I'm not applying. I'm gonna go through,
Right.
see these through. And then it's like maybe a company or two fell off. It's like, okay, now I'm going to go back and apply to a lot. Again, apply to like five, maybe 10 to kickstart it again,
Yeah.
and then maybe three the next day, so forth, and then see if I get interviews from those, which I did, and then kind of see how those play out. Because I realized if I just say like, oh, I want to apply to 15 a day or like a really large number, then it's really easy to, if you do get interviews, to end up having a ton of interviews at one time. And
Mm.
you're interviewing with a bunch of different companies at one time, which is very overwhelming. So I realized during the process I needed to kind of adjust how many I was applying to not completely overwhelm myself.
And I'm sure there were days where you like felt really frustrated, right? You're doing all those interviews, and
Mhm.
I'm sure obviously you didn't get all of them. I mean, unless
Yeah.
maybe you went through them all and you had like 8 offers to choose from, and you just, but you obviously didn't get all of them.
Mhm.
And so anybody who's looked for a job, you feel frustrated at one point or another. Was there ever like a time during your job search where you were just like you just kind of were feeling despaired, or you were just like you just wanted to give up?
Oh, I cried all the time. I
Oh,
cried all the time. I don't know. It's really hard because I know people are like, don't get emotionally invested in companies that you're applying for. But it's
yeah,
really hard, especially like
it's so
I
hard.
made it to the end in a lot of them, which I did get
Mm,
another offer. So I got 2 offers in total, but like I made it to the end with a lot of them. And then it's like you're invested in it, you're excited for it, and then it just doesn't happen. And it's really
yeah,
hard too not to internalize it and be like, oh, well, I'm the worst. Like, since I didn't get this job, I shouldn't be a software engineer at all. I suck. I'm awful. Like, it's just like the mental talk. And it's like, obviously,
yeah,
that's not valid. Like, obviously, it's not true if I'm
right,
like getting this far in interview
right.
processes and like knowing like I've been doing this for a while and stuff like that. But it's hard. You have to like reframe it mentally. I got to a point near the end where I was like, okay, if I didn't get those opportunities, it's just because they weren't meant for me. Like they weren't my
Mm,
opportunities. And the ones I was
yeah,
really excited for and I didn't get, now I'm at like a job I think is a way better fit. Like it just makes
yeah,
sense. So it's like,
yeah,
oh, this makes sense then why the other opportunities didn't work out because they weren't for me and this one is. And of course, when you're in the thick of it, it's really hard to see it that way because it's just like,
right.
I don't care if this opportunity is for me or not. I just want a job. But like when you're in the thick of it, it can get like that. But yeah, I also when I hit like a really hard point because I had like 1 week, I got like 4 rejections. Um,
Oof.
and then I was like, okay, I just need to take a break. So I like took a whole week off and did nothing but like play video
Mm,
games. And that really helped me. So I would think also like when you're feeling like really, really burnt out and down, just take
yeah,
a break. Like I know if you're job hunting, like obviously you need a job, but like if you're able to just give yourself time because if pushing through that is not going to help you at all. Like I felt like when I got to that point and I tried to push through, it was like affecting how I did in interviews too, right? Because of the negative
Yeah.
thinking. It's like you're,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
You're not at your peak, maybe not
Mm-mm.
sleeping as well, or you're stressed. Also, if you're still trying to apply, like you said, sometimes companies would fall off, and so you're trying to get out there. But if you're
Yeah.
feeling stressed in all angles, then how good is that cover letter going to be, or how are you going to come across? Like it adds up.
Yeah. No, for sure. Cause like my last two behaviorals, before I started like interviewing with Laravel and
Yeah.
stuff, I like I didn't get past the behavioral, which every other one I did. And it's like I just was like so burnt out that like my
Mm.
answers, I was like stressed out and I like didn't even really have like the bandwidth to prep beforehand because I was just like mentally, I just need to sleep. I just need to not think about this.
I said in the opening of this video that
Hmm.
you were pretty open about your
Hmm.
job hunt on social media. I mean, I remember seeing posts from you where you're like, did an interview, and you were kind of sharing along the way. Was that did that come naturally? Do you feel like you had to overcome any like nervousness or shyness to be open about that on social media? And then I guess the second part to that is, do you think that being open about that, do you think that helped you in any way
Hmm.
during this process?
It definitely helped me, which I'll talk more about that, I guess, at the end of
Yeah.
this answer. But so I feel like in a sense it comes natural. Like talking about it at first, I was like, I'm just gonna do it. There were definitely
Yeah.
times though where it's like, especially like when I was in the thick of it, it's like I don't want to post an update. Like I know people are like waiting for the update. I don't want to post the update. I feel like it's dumb. I feel like people would see it and be like, oh, why don't you have a job already? Which like no one did. Everyone was like
Yeah, I know.
invested and just wanted me to win.
But
But
that's
it's
what you
just
tell yourself.
yeah, it's just like the
Yeah.
mental framing, especially like when you're already kind of spiraling because there's like a lot of stress and stuff going on. So I had to push through that a lot. And which is like also why near the end I quit posting updates a lot too, because it also got like really hectic. But I was just like, okay, I need to just push through it because people are like really invested in my career updates, which also help like motivate me to keep pushing through,
Mm,
that people are like,
yeah.
oh, you're gonna find something great, or like, oh, I'm rooting for you. Like that really does help. So I think putting yourself out there helps in that sense. And then
Yeah.
also people are telling me like, oh, seeing your story like really helped me as well on my job hunt. But also it helped me with um, the job hunt in general as well, because at the end, I had two companies I was interviewing with where I was kind of like reached out to them through Twitter. So, which because it's kind of more DevRel. So obviously Laravel,
Yeah.
which I had talked kind of to Laravel last year about like, oh, if you guys ever have jobs opening up for DevRel, and here I am. But then
Here you
another
are.
company also reached out to me and they were like, oh, would you ever be interested in working on our developer experience team? So I started
Mm,
interviewing with them too. And that was because of me just being public about my job hunt. Because it's
yeah.
easy to forget about people if you don't talk to them. And I'm really bad about like targeted like DMing people. I don't really do that, which
I
I think
was
is a
yeah.
what were we gonna say?
Oh, sorry. I was actually just going to say, like, the next question I want to ask you about was networking, or sort of like that sort of
Hmm.
outreach, right? There's like social media where you're sort of just putting it out there, but then there's more
Yeah.
targeted things, right? People always talk about like, oh, you need to network to get a job and all these sorts of things. So I
Hmm.
was actually curious if that was whether it was going to conferences or networking via social media or just any other sort of networking. Was that any part of your process?
Yeah. So I guess that ties into my previous answer because that was like
Yeah.
networking. Um, But it's not like the targeted networking some people do where they just like do it through DMs, like
Yeah.
DMing people. I mean, my networking is making friends. I'm just not the best at like responding to people. So I like to like put myself out there on social media and like respond to
Yeah.
people in the comments and do it that kind of way. Also I think conferences has been a big help with networking for me as well. It didn't like really play a part in this job hunt, I wouldn't say. Well, okay. I guess in a sense it did because I feel like me going to Laracon US last year is what like kickstarted this whole thing. Because if I wouldn't have gone to Laracon US last year, I don't think I would have fully invested in Laravel and like in the sense of like making all this content for it because that really like
Right.
reignited my passion for building in public and building
Mm,
outside of work and wanting to make content and stuff like that. And I just like fell in love with the Laravel community and using Laravel. And I feel like if I wouldn't have gone, that wouldn't have happened. So like I wouldn't be in this job in a
yeah.
sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I feel like going to conferences is a great way to build your network because you get closer to people at conferences as well. On social media, you can feel like it's kind of hard to like get noticed in people's comments or like make friends. But if you're at a conference, it's really easy to make friends because there's all the like different events. Like at Commit Your Code last December, I went out to like karaoke with some
Mm,
people. So I connected with like Dennis Ivy at Appright just by like us singing karaoke. We would like
yeah.
went all into this karaoke bar and stuff like that. And it's like those friendships, it's harder to like, or and can take longer to solidify a friendship like that online versus in person.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
think conferences
Definitely.
is good, are good. But most of mine was just social media, I feel like. And I
Mm,
feel like it just helped me that I just kept posting about the job hunt journey, about, and I also got referrals just from
mm.
posting that I was applying for jobs as well. Um, and stuff like that. So really my main thing was just I'm going to put myself out there, see what comes to me because I don't really feel comfortable like going out and asking for jobs, like asking, oh, is your
Mm.
company hiring? So mainly I'm going to put myself out there and see what people bring to me. And then I'm also going to like separately be on LinkedIn and do my own job hunting.
Yeah. When you from if you think back to like when you started
Mhm.
kind of your job hunt, do you think that there was something that you sort of really were thought like you thought to yourself, this is going to be like a big part of my strategy that ended up being like a bad idea and you just dropped it quickly? Or was there like a mistake that you think you made along the way? I mean, obviously you found a great job, so maybe there was no
Mhm.
mistake this time, but does anything come to mind?
I would say so because I said like I didn't like just reaching out to my network. Like say I know someone who works at this company that I think is great. I didn't really feel comfortable like reaching out to them like, hey, is your company hiring? Like, do you know if there are any positions open, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I kind of just like did my own. Like I didn't really fall back on my network a lot. I think in the future, like doing more of the network stuff could be better because I don't know. I realized that if you are just cold applying to jobs, you can get a job, but
Mm.
the interview process is just way more extreme. It feels like interviewing on hard mode, like the interviews are more
Yeah.
extreme. It's like a 2 month process. It's just like awful. It's like
Yeah.
awful, and then you could get an offer and it's not even a company you really like, or there's like red flags and stuff. And it's like, whereas networking, I feel like is like really the best way to get the jobs you want, you know?
Yeah.
Because like a lot of jobs aren't even posted. Like a lot of jobs out there are never posted. And it's like you're not going to know about those jobs unless you network, unless you're building connections and already like reaching out to people. And it can feel awful doing it, but
Yeah.
you aren't going to get the job you want unless you do. Like in the case of mine, I like ended up having to reach out
Yeah.
about it, which like I was like freaking out. I was so stressed out when I reached out about it, and it was like last year. But if I wouldn't have done that, I don't think it would have like set things in motion the way it
Yeah, they
did.
kind of
So,
yeah. So I was gonna say sometimes people they might know you or they might be aware of you, but
mhm.
they're not even realizing, oh, this person maybe they are a fit. Like sometimes you have to like help plant that seed, even a
Mhm.
little bit, because you never know.
Yeah, I messaged Taylor after Laracon US, like a month after Laracon US last year. I was like, oh, what could I do to eventually work there as a DevRel, or are you guys hiring as DevRel? And then he connected me with Hank, and then here I am.
Here you are.
Here I am. So it can feel awful networking, which I'm not telling people to just DM CEOs. I'm not
Right.
saying to do that. But I am saying like before I never would have wanted to message someone like, hey, I would love to work here eventually. Like I love the community and stuff like that. But it can pay off like doing it. And they're not gonna
Yeah.
hate you if you do it, which of course in my mind I'm like, oh, I'm gonna message this and they're gonna hate me and I'm gonna be like blacklisted. It's like you're not asking, like you're not saying anything bad. So it's
Right.
fine to do that. So I just think moving forward, I would try to not hold myself back.
Yeah.
Like even if it feels kind of bad in the moment doing that, get like pushing through it and doing it because of the payoff.
Okay, so that's something that you think you might do differently if
Yeah.
whenever that next time might be. Is there
Mhm.
something that you did this time that you thought worked just really well and you kind of want to like double down on that? Like, yeah, okay, figured this out or I found this out and that was really helpful.
Like it's the same answer,
Yeah, it might be
which
the
makes
same
me
answer and
wonder
that's
if I
okay.
answered the other one wrong. But I think it's the
No, no, not at
same.
all. Not at all.
Okay. Because that is like the only time this job hunt I did that, right? The
Yeah.
only time I
Yeah.
like reached out to an actual company that I like thought like is like my top company that I thought like I would love to work for and would like align perfectly, and it paid off. But the other ones I didn't do that. And so it's like going forward, I think like doubling down almost like where it's like if you have someone you're connected to that's there, like not holding back from reaching out to them about it and like kind of put
Yeah.
it on their radar that you would want to work there. Because if you don't tell them, they're not going to know. And who knows, they might think you'd be a great fit there too.
So
Mhm.
you're on the DevRel team at Laravel,
Mhm.
but when I heard you talking about some of the other things, it sounded like you were also interviewing for other kinds of positions. Is that fair to say? Like you weren't just sitting there going, I only want to work in DevRel at a certain size company. Like it sounded like you
Mhm.
were pretty open and flexible as long as it was a good job and an interesting sort of company. Do you
Yeah,
think
so
that I was going to say, was that sort of intentional or is that just kind of how it happened?
that's intentional. Like, so for me, I've always wanted to kind of pivot and try out DevRel some, but
Mm,
I knew I only wanted to do it at certain companies because some companies, DevRel, I feel like is more marketing, which like here it's under the marketing team, but it's different, right?
yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
the DevRel's like they're coding, where some companies, like I
Right.
know friends who did 100 devs, which is the full stack web development program I learned um, web development through. And I know some people who went through the program also posted their stuff online and did the learning in public, and they went into DevRel. And some of them, like, they don't code at all anymore. And
Mm,
I was like, I don't want that. Like, I do not want to feel like a salesperson just out here doing like videos and like booths at conferences and stuff and not coding. Like, I do not want that. I would want it to be where it's like I'm still coding and then
yeah.
like making technical content and stuff like that. And I don't mind like talking at conferences and stuff now, but I didn't want like the no coding, you know?
Yeah.
So because of that, I didn't apply to DevRel at most companies. Like when I was looking for companies on LinkedIn, those were all software engineering. So my
Mm,
other job offer was for a software engineer position at a larger company.
yeah.
And that was like, they kind of wanted everything for that role. So it was like front end, back end, cloud, and DevOps. Like it was like
You know,
everything. Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Just a small little software engineering role. And it was like, do everything, please. And I had like 6 interviews for that
Oh,
company too. And it went from January to like March. Yeah. So like very, very long process. I had
yeah.
to do 3 aptitude tests on top of the 6 interviews. Yeah.
So this is how I know I think I'm getting too old. It's been a while since I did like a proper like job application. And 3 aptitude tests? What are
Yeah.
they?
And I think there was something else too. But yeah, 3 aptitude tests, and they were like ACT style tests. And they were like, here's YouTube videos, watch these, figure out how the test works, and then take the test. So like they took me like an hour and a half to prep it, and then I had to take the test. And then also one of my interviews of the 6, one of them was a in-person panel interview with like 6 engineering managers. Yeah.
Not intimidating at all.
No. And then they
No
made me like
problem.
randomly whiteboard a question in the middle of it. Yeah.
Whiteboarding is all I'll say is the job sort of hiring processes that I've been able to be a part of. If I have any say on it or any influence, we've always tried to not do whiteboarding in that way. Like sometimes there's like a take home or there's some other
Hmm.
sort of thing. So I used to work at Titan, and at Titan they would do like sort of like a pair programming. Like let's all look at it, let's look at something together, and like I want to hear you talk through like what you're thinking, etc. I
Hmm.
understand people want to get like the some awareness of your technical capability, but whiteboarding is just I don't know.
It was
Sorry,
like the
I'm ranting
last
and
10
raving a little bit,
minutes
but it's
too. Oh no,
yeah.
you're
Oh, they
good.
just threw it. They just threw it at you. They're like, oh, by the way, get on the whiteboard and go.
Yeah, because the one guy was like, I kind of want to see you code. And he's like, did you already do a technical? And I was like, yes. I did like a dark and light mode toggle. And like I
Right.
did it with one of the other like seniors on the team and the
Yeah.
engineering manager. And he's like, I kind of want to see you code. Whiteboard fizz buzz. Like the last like 6 minutes. Yeah. I was like, okay. I mean, it was fizz buzz. So I was like, okay, I can do it. But yeah, so most the other positions, I think so. I said it was like 9 companies. So 7 of those were engineering roles, and only 2
Yeah.
were like DevRel adjacent
Okay.
roles. So I like applied. I don't know how many I applied to in total. I want to say probably like 60, 40,
Okay.
60. And only 2 of them were the DevRel ones, which like
Yeah.
technically I'm I'm like 80/20, so I'm like or like it feels like 90/10 right now, just from what I'm doing. But like we're the bigger number is the engineering part of me doing like
Yeah.
the front end engineering on the marketing side, and then the
Yeah.
other part will be DevRel. I'm sure like as like needs kind of die
Sure.
down for the front end work on marketing,
Right.
I'll go more DevRel. But so it's
Yeah.
really nice in the sense that like primarily I am an engineer still. You know,
Yeah.
like the last week and a half, all I've done is write code. So I'm not losing that, but I am
Right.
gaining the DevRel side of things too. So that's what I mean too about it being like the perfect fit. It feels like.
Yeah. Seems like it's a really great fit for kind of where you're at and what you're looking for.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's all I had for questions, but I was gonna I'll end with one last thing, which
Mhm.
is there anything else about sort of your process of going through this that you would want to share with people that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet? Something you learned or something you didn't like or just something you think people should keep in mind?
I think I just feel like it's important to know or to think about it, like posting it online, your process of job hunting, even if it's scary, even if it feels really vulnerable, which it did for me,
Yeah.
it can still really pay off in the end. And it's also just nice seeing people get invested about it and seeing people like rooting for you. And then it makes whenever you announce it even more exciting. So I think it's worth it in the long run.
Yeah.
And just know you can likely get a job without networking, but it might not be the job you want. So really consider networking. My mentor of the program I did always is like, network, network, network. And I was like, no, I can do it without networking. I mean, even though I do a lot of networking, but I was like, I
Yeah.
can just apply to a job and just be done. That is probably not how you end up with your dream job. So just keep that in mind going forward.
That's good advice. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me today. I really appreciate it. And again, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me.